Hello students, I am Dr. Aruna Mohan from University of Delhi, and in this session I shall discuss with you midbrain and hindbrain parts of the brain. In the previous session we discussed the forebrain, and the midbrain is the second part. Midbrain has a canal which is called cerebral aqueduct. The word cerebral comes from cerebrum. This is a kind of canal which is going to continue little further. It also has 4 round structures which we call lobes or quadrigemina. These 2 parts really make the midbrain, but midbrain has many other roles to play. First thing, it is located between hypothalamus and thalamus of forebrain, and pons is another area in the hindbrain. So, between these 2 structures it is located. It is very small in size, but is very important because canal is running through it which is going to continue till spinal cord. Spinal cord has a canal running within the cord, and this is this canal which will run through spinal cord, and that is why this particular canal, and that is the reason why midbrain becomes very important. Hindbrain, which has organs or parts like pons, cerebellum and medulla. Pons is just below the midbrain and of course very important, but when we come to cerebellum, you can see in this diagram, this is cerebellum. This has come to one side, increase the surface area to accommodate more nerve cells. Again, it is important and it is going to continue further in the lower part of the brain, and we know that after hindbrain will come the spinal cord. So, anything hindbrain which is theoretically the last part of the brain will eventually continue into the spinal cord which runs through our spine, through our back. Now, there are 3 important parts in hindbrain: the pons, the cerebellum, the medulla. Please do not confuse cerebellum with cerebrum of forebrain. Cerebellum, which is seen on one side as an extension, it has become large in size to accommodate large number of neurons. And finally, you can also see medulla. I will show you in the diagram. This is the medulla part which will finally continue as a spinal cord below. This is cerebellum, and of course, this is pons, and you can again see this quadrigemina of midbrain, 4 lobes which I described. This is quadrigemina and this is pons, this is cerebellum and this is medulla. We sometimes call it medulla oblongata. This continues as a spinal cord in our vertebral column, and spinal cord is equally important. Before we go further, I would like to tell you that the hindbrain has respiratory center controlling the respiration, and also centers controlling cardiovascular reflexes and gastric secretion. If I say respiratory center, means respiration is controlled by this. If I say cardiovascular reflexes, the center which is controlling cardiovascular reflexes, then what do I mean by this? Heart and blood circulation. The hindbrain also lodges the centers for respiratory functions and for cardiovascular reflexes. So, respiration is controlled by this center in the hindbrain, and heart activity and blood circulation activity are also controlled by hindbrain by these centers. This will also mean that these are very sensitive areas. Your respiration, your heart, your circulation, these are sensitive issues in our body, and hence if there is injury on the back side of the neck through which the hindbrain is continuing as spinal cord, that point injury is always very, very serious. Either the person will not survive, or if one survives, then maybe paralysis or loss of action of some part of the body or whole body other than the brain. So, back side of neck is very sensitive, and fortunately or unfortunately it is not covered by very hard covering like skull or not having that many meninges. So, protection is not that much. So, we should take care of our neck from front also and from back also, that it should not be injured, it should not get any shock, and it should not be tilted too much. So, that is the hindbrain. As I told you that brain tissue finally continues as a spinal cord. The medulla part of hindbrain continues as a spinal cord. A spinal cord is very important because all actions of our movement, of our limbs and immediate actions are looked after by a spinal cord in the form of reflex action. So, reflex arc is there in a spinal cord. Now, let us understand how it functions. Here is a diagram to show reflex arc. You can see the spinal cord. This is cut section of a spinal cord, and this in the center is the gray matter and outside is the white matter. You remember while discussing brain, I did tell you that in brain outside is gray matter, which you have seen in cerebral cortex, and inside is white matter, which is in the form of axons, myelinated axons. But in case of a spinal cord, the gray matter is in the center and white matter is outside. You can also see it has two roots. Students, first we should understand the structure of a spinal cord in some detail. As I have told you that there are sensory fibers. This is sensory, also known as afferent, also known as dorsal root, and other one is motor, also known as efferent, also known as ventral root. This is gray matter lodging the nerve cell body. Please try to remember that nerve cell body is making the gray matter, whereas the axon is making the white matter. That means, if this is the nerve cell, then this is the axon. So, a spinal cord which is running through our vertebral column, if we take circular section, then this is how it will look like. There is a central canal. We talked about a canal in midbrain, and I did tell you that that canal will continue in spinal cord. Then we have discussed about gray matter and the white matter. The only thing which I would like to repeat here is, for your better understanding, is that there are nerve cell bodies in the gray matter. This is whole gray matter. Here in this diagram, I am showing you two nerve cell bodies. So, the body is in the gray matter and axon is in the white matter. After understanding this, this is your finger. If it is pricked by a needle, you will withdraw your finger. I want to explain to you why you will withdraw, how your spinal cord will help you doing that, and this is reflex action, and how this reflex action is taking place in your body. And suppose it was not there, then what would have happened? So, when your finger is pricked, then axonal ending is there. Always remember this fact that each and every cell of your body is supplied by nerve and the blood. So, here nerve we are talking about. So, nerve ending is there in your finger, which will carry this message to the spinal cord. How? You can see your finger here, prick. Now, this is the nerve axon present, and the message is brought through this nerve. It is coming to the spinal cord gray matter. You can very well imagine that if cell body is in the gray matter, then through which it was traveling through axon. So, you have reason to believe that yes, it is axon. So, axon has brought the stimulus. How it has brought the stimulus? We have discussed in some previous sessions how stimulus is transmitted from one end of axon to the other part of the axon. So, stimulus is carried from one end to the cell body. Now, what will happen in the gray matter of your spinal cord? The stimulus will be passed from this cell to this cell. There are two cells you can see, from this to this. How it will pass? We discussed in previous session about synapse. Synapse is between two nerve cells. So, between these two nerve cells, you can also see in the diagram, there are synapse. So, I again begin the story with your finger. Your finger was pricked and then the stimulus was travelling through axon and it reached the gray matter of spinal cord, and after reaching the gray matter, the stimulus was transmitted through synapse, through neurotransmitter to other nerve cell, and other nerve cell took the stimulus and took it back through this neuron, then axon, and again it is moving and going to the muscle, and this is also muscle of your finger itself. So, children, you have understood that from finger the stimulus went up to the gray matter and then it returned back to the muscle of the finger to say withdraw. It will not take so much of time as I took in explaining, it takes in fraction of second. So, the one which was carrying message from finger to the gray matter is a sensory nerve, and the one which was carrying from gray matter back to the finger muscle is a motor nerve. So, sensory and motor nerve will make a curve or arc which is called reflex arc. For every such thing, the reflex arc functions, and that is how our body responds and we are safe in ourselves. So, in today's session we have discussed brain and the spinal cord, the midbrain, the hindbrain, and the functioning of spinal cord, including sensory part and the motor part. We have also understood about gray matter and white matter in brain as well as in spinal cord. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you.